But if I had a Juno, yeah, Juno slot 4 crit rate, cycling so many turns on despair, she could be such a pain. Turn cycling is so important.
It's funny that you say turn cycling is so important because when we take a look at this Ethna, apparently you only care about turn cycling 89% of the time. Ain't that right?
Look, honestly,
What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with the next episode of Educate and Dominate, the one-on-one interview series where we take some of the top names in the game and get their insights so we can bring your game to the next level. Today's video is definitely going to be a special one because this is something we have not talked about. Today we're going to be talking about niche runes and where to use them in Summoner's War. And in order to help me out with that today, we have brought on the G2 RTA player representing Epic Fail Alpha, Lucky Madman 19. What is going on, my man?
Yeah, not too much, man. Just wrapped up the stream not too long ago and looking forward to having a chat around this topic. It's definitely an interesting one that hasn't been spoken about too often. So, yeah, let's explore and see what we can come up with.
Yes, most definitely. So if you guys don't know, Lucky Madman is not just a Summoners War content creator on YouTube, but he's also on Twitch. That's his main platform. So if you guys want to go ahead and check him out, I will leave a link in the description down below. When it comes down to Summoners War and most specifically RTA, we got a ton of different builds that the community has talked about. But there's a couple of random runes that we generally get that we're like, oh, it's an accuracy rune or crit rate rune, and that doesn't look too promising. But believe it or not, these niche runes can be utilized at the later stages of the RTA and can be very, very beneficial. So the first one we want to jump into is the accuracy 6-slot runes here. So tell us a little bit about this one, Lucky, and what are some of the units that you incorporated if you had a really strong rune?
Okay, so the times you would use a slot 6 accuracy rune over your standard HP attack or defense percentages would be at times when you need those accuracy subs. It sometimes could be hard to find accuracy in some of your runes. So to be able to find units or to be able to give those units that require or that have the CC abilities the accuracy they need, you might need to consider running a slot 6 accuracy rune. The units that we're referring to would be units like Varad, Rika, Charlotte, Okeanos, and Hathor, mainly in RTA. Those are your heavy CC based units that you would usually see. What that does allow, if you do run a slot 6 accuracy rune, it does take the weight off your other runes, your slot 1 to 5s, getting too much accuracy on those. So it allows a unit like, for example, Okeanos. Ideally, you want to run them as fast as you can, but at the same time, you also want to consider the accuracy as well. You don't want a super fast Okeanos that can't strip and land the reset that you really want him to do.
Right.
So if you don't have the accuracy, you're not really fulfilling his role. You do want to also have the speed, so you got to find the right balance. So sometimes you do need to consider that running that slot 6 accuracy to be able to make up that the accuracy you need. So those would be the sort of units and the reasons why you want to use an accuracy rune in slot 6.
Right. So units like the Varad, the Rika, the Charlotte. One thing that we can make an argument for, like if you're making a cleave comp with like a Shield Will Galleon, we just need him to be relatively tanky. We need to have that will, and if we have the accuracy to consistently land that defense break, then we're going to be good to go as well, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, that's a prime example as well. Galleon, if you do get that accuracy, it makes it a lot easier on the other runes as well. So it comes down to what's your rune depth like. If you've got accuracy elsewhere, yeah, look, you might be able to get away with not running it. But in most cases, running that slot 6 just makes it so much easier focusing on other stats on the runes you have as well. So that's I guess the pros and cons of running slot 6
Right.
accuracy rune on Galleon as well.
Right. And in addition to that, just to put it out there, like we're obviously talking about late to end game, RTA, where the accuracy rune is obviously going to have really good stats on the side that makes it, or be a really efficient route that makes it worth the argument to do it. We're not going to run an accuracy 6 slot on an Okeanos with 4 speed. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're beat D and you got 300 speed elsewhere, like you're gonna be looking at efficient runes all day. So we got to make the argument of that.
Definitely.
Now this is going to be an interesting topic because this is something that I think has been debated so much in the Summoners War community. Resistance runes. Some people say they use them, but they really don't. Some people, it's just kind of that elephant in the room that hasn't been addressed. Today, we're going to have Lucky address this. So tell us a little about your thought process on like effective resistance versus effective accuracy and why or where you would make the argument to use.
Okay, so let's just talk about resistance versus accuracy first, right? So when we're looking at resistance slot 6 runes, firstly, let's talk about the concept of effective resistance and accuracy. There is a part in the help section when you click on your name on the top left corner of your game under help in the battle section. They did talk about the concept of effective resistance and effect accuracy. So the calculation itself is simply the effective resistance is accuracy from effective resistance. So I'll give you a prime example of that. A unit can have 100% resistance. If a unit has 100% resistance, and the opponent has 85% accuracy, that the effective resistance is essentially 15%. It's 100 minus the 85 gives you 15%. That's your effective resistance, right? If you run 50% resistance and they run 100% accuracy, there's a component, the last line there says, but no matter how high the effect accuracy is, the effect resistance does not go below 15%. So what that's saying is that once you end up at a negative figure, your resistance, or if it becomes less than 15, your resistance becomes 15%.
Right.
So if we go back to the first example, 100% resistance, subtracting the 85 accuracy means your effective resistance is only 15%, which means the opponent still has an 85% chance of them landing their debuff, give or take the harmful effect rate that they have as well. A lot of people forget about that concept, and they always yell out and complain about, why aren't there resistance monsters resisting sleeps from Hathors or stuns from Okeanos and all that sort of jazz. It's because a lot of units, like those CC units that we spoke about when we were talking about slot 6 accuracy runes, they are pretty close to 85 to 100% accuracy. Right. So their effective rate of landing it on you is going to be pretty much 85% chance. So when does resistance runes come into play? Again, it comes down to making up the resistance from your substats. If you're lacking resistance in your substats, that's when you consider running a slot 6 resistance rune. It also depends on the quality of the substats on your resistance slot 6 runes.
Right.
So you got to give that a thought as well. If you can find the right balance of your substats by putting a resistance slot 6, then by all means do it. Right. But don't expect to counter the slot 6 accuracy based CC units, because that's not what it's there for. It's to counter units that aren't usually built to
with a lot of accuracy,
with high accuracy. Yeah, exactly right. They're not built for high accuracy, but they can cause a lot of, it can be quite detrimental to your team if they do land those debuffs on you. So units, what I was referring to before could be Vanessa. So Vanessa with the armor break with skill 2. Theomars could be Garo with the stun, Perna with the stun. Just to name off a few off the top of my head would be those sort of key units. Yeah. Or even Trianas or Harmonias with their first turn sleeps. So those would be the units that you don't usually see accuracy on, but or even Woosters. How many times have you seen a Wooster 2-turn sleep? You're sitting there ripping your hair out.
Right, right, yeah.
Why is this happening? You know what I mean? It could be due to factors like that. Maybe they're sleeping units that you haven't actually provided enough resistance. So that's the times where you'd consider a slot 6 resistance rune. Now, for me, there are some key units that you would want to run resistance on, but again, it comes down to the trade-off of your stats in your your substats on your other runes. The only unit I think I currently run the resistance slot 6 on is my Orion, and that's to just make him a pain to deal with. I don't know if he's
he's not out. Moment. His other runes are probably crap, so that's why you put it out. You put it away.
So I've made it pretty easy for myself. I've only really left out units that I either have put on my island or I use them for RTA. So that's the only units you'll see in my box at the moment, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I run him on resistance because he's pretty hard to deal with. The units that usually bring against him aren't usually built with accuracy. So that's the reason why I've gone with the resistance build of Ryan.
Right.
Look, I've considered a resistance-based Triana. I just don't feel like I'm getting enough substats elsewhere to make up the stat loss. So, which is why I haven't gone down that path yet. But it's something that I've been tinkering around with at the moment.
Right, and like you said early on, it just kind of comes down to the quality of your rune. You can make an argument for resistance, but if you don't have the substats to make it work, then maybe it won't.
Definitely right.
Just to kind of add on my side, one of the units that I've had on resistance runes up until the last free removal, I had it on Bastet. Now, Bastet for me at that time was my fastest Swift set, or had my fastest Swift set, and so ultimately the only thing I wanted to do was get the first turn, be as fast as possible. So that Swift rune had the high speed, HP, and defense subset that I wanted. And so it obviously it was without question that I had to use it. But you know, if you think about it, when we're related to RTA or PvP, like your ultimate goal is the first turn, and the opponent's going to be going for the threats. Bastet is not really a primary target somebody's taken out, especially if they get the first turn, they get the shield off. Like they're not really too important. They're going to be focusing on those DPS units or the main threats. So ultimately, the resistance rune, even though the intention of it is not really directly related to like trying to like not get CC'd or whatever, like it just kind of comes down like to the quality and your intention of how you're trying to do it.
Exactly right. So if I talk about a friend of mine, Thunder D, for example,
Thunder D.
His Tiana and his Bastet are both being run on resistance slot 6.
Mm-hmm.
So he runs them both pretty close to 100% resistance, pretty much to counter Leo. And that's because he also, I don't think he has the rune depth at the moment with his will runes to be able to get the same speed output that he does compared to running with this slot 6 resistance rune. So that's his way of countering Leos, for example.
Gotcha.
Another way of why you could run resistance in slot 6 as well.
Yeah, definitely. So let's jump into from resistance runes to crit rate runes. Now, crit rate runes is not really a niche rune per se, because when we think about crit rate runes and some of the units that we use it on normally, the Vertihills, the Deannas, the Helenas, you know, that makes sense and all. But some of the things that a lot of the late to endgame players like yourself have been doing for quite some time is incorporating it on like the Wind and Fire Oracle per se. So kind of tell me a little bit about that concept of why you find like a crit rate Ciara or a Juno to be super, super strong.
Yeah. Okay, so I've only recently moved my Ciara away from a crit rate slot 4, only because I've used the crit rate rune elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
The reason why the crit rate is really important on oracles, for example, is because of their skill 1. They gain attack bar. They gain 15% attack bar for every time they land as a crit. So if you run high crit rate, you can get up to 45% attack bar for every time you do skill 1. It helps you cycle turns with Ciara to get that bomb off more often. It means you're not really relying on the one-turn nuke that a lot of people have run Ciara for before, but you can run a more of a CC-based unit as well, so you can drop a lot of bombs, because the cooldown on her second skill for the bomb laying, I think it's only 3.
3, yeah, 3.
Yeah, so if you're cycling turns, you know, you drop a bomb, and you get another turn straight away, right? So that means after you move that second turn, that means your cooldown's gone down to 2 turns, and if you fill up your bar by 50% every time you move, or 45% every time you move, you're getting bombs down very, very quickly, especially if you're running violent. You could proc that turn, that, you know, you could almost get a bomb every turn, and it becomes quite threatening when you run a Ciara with high crit rate. And a lot of the high end players have been running crit rate Ciaras for a while now.
Right.
It's slowly now coming through the ranks that you're seeing it a lot more often.
Right.
The only thing about Ciara, she is really hard to rune with the crit rate, which is why for me, when I first ran her, I found her to be too squishy. Mine was running, I think, 2,000 less HP than she is now. I think 300 less attack and 200 less defense, around the same speed. But I only gained maybe 20 or 30% more crit rate than where I'm at the moment.
Sure.
So that's why I've gone down this current build. It's so far been working relatively well for me. But again, it's all about that turn cycle. You know, if you can get that first turn critting quite often, you're going to be taking a lot of extra turns on top of your team.
Right.
So that's why Ciara, you'll see a lot of Ciaras based that way. Junos are very, very similar. You can see Junos being built to do a lot more damage. They're a lot more bruiserish. And I don't have a Juno to show, unfortunately.
Dude, you need to swipe harder. Swipe harder. What's the matter with you, man?
I don't know, man. Honestly, if I had a Juno, she would definitely be on a slot 4 crit rate. And that's because there's substats that I would want on the Juno compared to what I want on my Ciara. I've got the crit rates in that rune that suits a Juno compared to what suits a Ciara. So, unfortunately, that's why my Ciara's not on crit rate slot 4 at the moment. Right. But if I had a Juno, Juno slot 4 crit rate, cycling so many turns on Despair, she could be such a pain, just due to turn cycling and, you know, clearing the debuffs, healing the team, should the other team be very debuff dependent, essentially.
Right. And
turn cycling is so important.
It's funny that you say turn cycling is so important, because when we take a look at this Ethna, apparently you only care about turn cycling 89% of the time. Ain't that right?
Honestly, so for me, right, so the reason Ethna looks like that is because Diana.
Right.
I don't use my Ethna too often. It's only when I see a lot of very heavy water or wind-based comps, but a lot of the times my first choice is taking Diana into that comp.
Yeah.
Diana just she's a machine. So
Right.
she's a machine gun. So which is why I go using that. The only other time where I would use Ethna is, again, yeah, as I said before, water, wind-based heavy team that don't run a lot of CC. Sorry, not CC, immunity. So then that kind of gives my threatening units a lot more threat.
Right.
So what I'm saying is she lands her armor breaks. I know I'm only running 20% accuracy, but when she does land her armor breaks, my threats become a lot more scarier. Yeah.
I was gonna say too, and you might be, maybe you're running the unit that provides an accuracy lead, like a Ganymede or something like that. So I for one,
I got no Ganymede, Charlie.
Oh! Oh my god!
Oh god! Yeah, no. I run Okeanos mainly.
Okay.
When I run Okeanos, and if I'm not running Vanessa, I do run the Okeanos lead. Just to fill the gaps. Look, I don't really rely on the accuracy too much. For me, the reason why I went down this build is mainly for the tankiness. I want my Ethna to do more than just, just be there to cycle turns. I wanted to do some sort of damage and still survive. Or most Ethnas, what I've come across is you armor break and you can nuke one turn.
Right.
To me, having a unit like that doesn't really help. My Ethna can survive a lot of armor break and damage dealers hitting him. So to me, it's not as scary running this sort of Ethna compared to how I was running it before. She used to be a lot faster, and with the slot 4 crit rate rune, I think she's still slot 4 crit rate actually, but she's a lot more. She's actually a lot more tankier now. So I've slowed her down. To me, she's my 5th pick option. Should there be a lot of water or wind unit? So but definitely a unit you can run crit rate on to be able to cycle turns.
Gotcha. And then for the last topic we have, it's funny because we were just talking about the Ethna as well. Slot 2 non-speed runes. In this game, it's been the underlining topic that everyone understands without even telling them. Speed is king. Put as much speed as possible. Make your units as fast as possible, and make it work here. But there are a handful of units out there that if you were lucky enough to get a slot 2 non-speed rune with maybe speed substats, you can make the argument for using that over just regular speed rune, right? So this is a good example because of Deanna having the ability to gain the attack bar by means of her mechanic here. So even though we want her to be relatively fast, we're going to be gaining turns really, really quick if they're not focusing her down yet.
Yeah. Definitely. So I've recently moved my Diana to a slot 2 HP rune. Largely because of the substats I was able to get out of that slot 2. It's got the speed. It's got a fair bit of flat HP. It's got defense. It's got enough crit rate for me to be at that 100%.
Oh, yeah, that's sexy right there.
So that got me the stats I needed. I essentially gained, I think, around 7,000 more HP and a lot more effective HP in general on her by running that slot 2 rune at the cost of, I think it was 21 speed.
Okay.
Yeah, it would have definitely been 21 speed. So her old rune is actually sitting on my Helena now. So yeah, she's a prime unit where you don't really need to run a lot of speed, because of her passive. So if you read her passive up, when she's on pony form, every time your teammates are and whenever your teammates are attacked, she gets 15% attack bar. So she gets a lot of turns just when her teammates are being attacked. So for me, I just wanted to make my Diana hit a lot harder, and also provide, really just be there to be able to tank out a lot of hits as well. Because a lot of people go, oh yeah, Dianas can be relatively squishy at times, so I just wanted to beef mine up, make it more powerful, and this is the way I went about it. So yeah, running that slot 2. I was actually looking for a slot 2 HP rune for her for about, I think, 3-4 months now, and it finally came up about a month or 2 ago. So yeah.
Okay. And one thing to kind of think about, and let me know what you think about this, like Triana, for example. Triana, we generally make fast, but let's say if you're creating a composition where chances are maybe your Triana is going to be your only option for immunity, would you make the argument for dropping a speed slot if you need to speed tune and be the last one to go in your comp so you can have that full turn of immunity across the board?
Look, definitely. And I think it just comes down to the quality of your substats as well. If you're getting a lot of speed elsewhere, then it is worthwhile looking at dropping your slot 2 rune to get that, to get that more beefiness in your unit. So Triana's a prime example. Unfortunately, mine's probably not a good one because I am running a slot 2 speed rune, but mine is pretty fat.
Yeah.
So the idea for her is to move last, but yeah, for me at the moment, that's the reason why I've gone with her current build with the speed slot 2.
Yeah.
But you can look at that way. So I think if you're talking about units that where you can afford to lose the slot 2 speed, a prime example out of my box would probably be a unit like Zyros.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get the speed that I need on him and still keep him tuned to my team.
Jeez.
Um,
Give me that rune, man.
So I was able to, so I was able to get him the speed I still need to have him tuned to my team, without running a slot 2 speed rune. So you just gotta find how you want your comp to operate, and then from there find the best value in your runes to be able to get the stats you want. You don't necessarily have to always look for slot 2 speed. It's always been ingrained in our head that slot 2, if you want to play RTA, or if you want to be fast, you need to have a slot 2 speed rune. Not necessarily. You can still run decent speed if you've got really good speed substats elsewhere. But sometimes when you're running really high speed substats elsewhere, you are losing out on your HP subs or your defense subs or your attack subs. You might want to make up those stats by running that slot 2 attack rune, HP rune, defense rune, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So it's worthwhile definitely looking into. Don't go in blindly going, a lot of people will say, okay, you got to build this unit, speed, HP. You only need to get to 120 speed. Yo, if I can get 120 speed without a slot 2 rune being on speed, I'm going to do that because that means I can get a lot more HP or effective HP by running that slot 2 with HP or defense. Right. So definitely worthwhile looking into.
Gotcha. Cool. And you could, like you said, Zyros, Lucian, any one of those could potentially work. One of the questions that I'd love to throw for the guests that I have here, I mean, we have also, possibly an upcoming, monster balance patch should be in the works. I feel like it should be well overdue here. Is there like pick a random unit, given the current meta right now with RTA? If there was one unit that you would want to change, what would it be and why?
Okay, so I've asked this question a lot on my streams as well to find out what people's thoughts are. And around this balance patch, I'm hoping to see something done with Hathor.
Okay. I
think for me right now, a lot of people say Ganymede needs to be nerfed. To me, Ganymede is just an enabler. And, he's only really broken when you're running him with a lot of heavy CC-based teams that have Hathor in there. So that's why you see Ganny Hathor paired up a lot. The reason why I think Hathor is really powerful in the meta, not only for a 2-turn sleep, but largely due to her ability of pushing attack bar back.
Mm-hmm.
So it effectively makes a 2-turn sleep almost 3 turns.
Right.
Because you can go from almost full attack bar down to next to nothing, and you're still sleeping for 2 turns.
Right.
Then you refresh that with the Ganymede, and you just end up cycling turns after turns after turns of you just being asleep while seeing Ganny Hathor take control of the map.
Right.
Now, a lot of the times that could be due to being bad pick banning to fight those sort of comps, but there are a lot of arguments out there at the moment for, issues with facing comps around Ganny Hathor.
Sure.
I mean, if it's so prevalent in the meta that it's just showing that there is a big gap in gameplay. Or
if you have Ganymede Hathor, there's just so much more you could do versus not. I mean, it's
exactly right.
Without question. Yeah, without question.
So. Yeah, definitely. So that's the thing. It's quite hard to go against those comps. If you don't for me, I'm lucky. I've got quite a lot of options. I feel sorry for those guys that don't have CC and they don't have immunity and they face Ganny Hathor.
Yeah.
You're kind of a sitting duck and you just, you kind of have no options to really counter it. So
right. Yeah. Cool.
But
cool.
For me, it'd be definitely Hathor. Definitely.
Yeah. All right.
Ganymede, I don't really mind. And I don't have either one of them. And I'm dying for
I was just about to say, I thought you might have had Ganymede there, so.
No.
Okay.
A unit that I do personally have that I think should be nerfed, we did talk about her earlier, is Diana.
Oh, man.
I think she should lose her passive where she gains attack bar. For whenever her teammates are hit. And the reason for that is there is a lot of complaints about the ponies, being able to cycle turns because when they change forms, it resets the violent counter.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's not too much of a concern. The main concern is when Diana just gets heaps of attack bar and then keeps cycling turns. It's kind of making the snowball effect even more bigger because she's just getting turns after turns.
Right.
I think you don't really see Helena as much of an issue as you do when you see a Diana. Right. So I feel like if Diana lost that part of her passive, it'll be a bit more balanced.
I was gonna say I completely agree. Yeah. Well, I think Snow from the Summoners War community would definitely agree that this is as he would say, one of the most toxic eunuchs in the game. So
Yeah,
I'm sure he's going to like your opinion on that.
Yeah.
But that being said, that pretty much wraps up the topics that we have for today. Again, guys, we got to give a huge shout out to my man, Lucky Man, for coming aboard and doing this video with me. Thank you so much, my man. I appreciate it.
Oh, look, thanks for having me. I really did appreciate this as well. Look, it's definitely topics that haven't been spoken about too widely. So I think it was, you know, a really good idea to have this loaded onto YouTube. It's definitely a good idea.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to be it. If you guys want to go ahead and check out Lucky Man, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below, twitch.tv/LuckyManMan19. Please do me the honor that you have done to me and give him a follow over there on Twitch, guys. That's going to be it. It's your boy Childish and Lucky Man with ChildishPlays checking out. Take care, and we will see you all in the next episode of Educate and Dominate. I'm out.